Okay, so today we're going to take a deep dive into a really, really disturbing cold case
Right.
that was solved after 37 years from just outside of Denver.
Okay. Yeah.
So this case is going to involve, uh, brutal murders, DNA evidence, and genealogy research. And we've got a really interesting story to tell.
Sounds fascinating.
So let's jump right into it.
Yeah.
So imagine a frigid Monday morning outside of Denver.
Okay.
And, kind of that eerie quiet
Uh-huh.
that can really be shattered in an instant.
Right.
And that's exactly the morning that a woman named Connie Large Bennett's world turned upside down.
Oh, wow.
She got a phone call.
Okay.
And it was just this simple worry at first. Her son, Bruce, and his wife, Debra, hadn't shown up for work. They distributed furniture for Bruce's uncle.
Right.
And it was just so out of character for them to not show up that
Yeah.
all the alarm bells started going off.
Well, yeah. And I mean, not showing up for work might seem like a small thing, but, when you think about it in the context of a family, things and responsibilities, it can be such a huge signal that something is really wrong.
Yeah.
It really speaks to, I think, how important those everyday routines and rhythms are in our lives,
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes you think about the things that we take for granted, when somebody doesn't answer a text or whatever, you're like, okay, is everything all right?
Yeah.
So this is January 2nd, 1984.
Okay.
And the last time that anybody had seen Bruce and Debra and their two young daughters, Melissa and Vanessa,
Right.
was the night before
Okay.
for Melissa's 8th birthday party.
Wow.
So Connie was there, and so were her other sons, Richard and Daniel.
Okay.
So it was this happy, family celebration.
Right.
And you just never imagine that, something like that could be followed by something so horrific.
Yeah, it's that contrast that's so unsettling.
Right, yeah.
You have this moment of joy, and then it just becomes this haunting memory, because of what happened.
Yeah, and it just makes you think about how quickly life can change.
Right.
In just the blink of an eye.
For sure.
So driven by worry, Connie went to the house.
Okay.
And what she found is almost unspeakable.
Oh.
Bruce was found in the kitchen.
Right.
And he was bludgeoned with a hammer, and his throat was cut.
Oh, my gosh.
Debra was in the master bedroom.
Okay.
And she had also been bludgeoned to death.
Oh, wow.
And they found 7-year-old Melissa in her room, and she'd also been struck with a hammer.
Yeah.
And sexually assaulted.
It's just awful.
Even for the seasoned investigators,
Yeah.
they were profoundly shocked.
It's just unimaginable.
Well, the brutality of the scene.
It does make you wonder about the perpetrator and the level of rage that they must have been experiencing to go to that extent.
Yeah.
It's beyond just ending a life.
Yeah, and the fact that Bruce was attacked in multiple ways, bludgeoned and then his throat was cut.
All right.
It just seemed like such a personal, uncontrolled fury.
Absolutely.
So, but amidst this absolutely unimaginable scene, there was a tiny beacon of hope.
Okay.
3-year-old Vanessa was found by fire rescue.
Wow.
Miraculously alive.
Oh my gosh.
And she was trapped between a wall and a bed.
Oh, wow.
So her survival is just astonishing.
It is. I mean, it makes you think, maybe she was just trying to hide, a child's instinct to seek safety.
Exactly.
In the face of something so terrifying.
Yeah, it's really a testament to her will to live.
Absolutely.
And so, Vanessa's early memories of the hospital are just these fragmented pieces.
Okay.
She can remember the sticky things on her chest that check your heart rate.
Right.
But she has no recollection of being told that her family was dead.
That's heartbreaking.
It's just tragic,
Yeah.
It's hard to even grasp.
And it makes you think about,
right.
Maybe that's her mind's way of protecting her from something so unbearable, to have to process all that.
Yeah, so the initial investigation obviously focused on, the people that were at Melissa's birthday party.
Right, that's the logical first step.
Right, including Connie.
You have to look at the people with the closest connection and the last known contact.
Exactly.
And then kind of work from there.
So Connie's son, Richard, recalled telling his mother to remind Bruce to close the garage door that night.
Okay.
And that door was found open.
Oh, wow.
So, it's just a seemingly insignificant detail.
Right.
But it suggested that,
an easy entry point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the primary weapon, the hammer, was never found.
Okay.
But investigators did discover a knife in the snow near the driveway.
Okay.
and it had been used on Bruce.
All right.
However, they couldn't lift any usable fingerprints from it.
Oh, really?
So that was another dead end.
Yeah, I mean, that happens a lot, actually.
Does it?
Yeah, I mean, it could mean that the perpetrator was wearing gloves or that they wiped it down.
Oh, okay.
You know, they were trying to be aware of leaving evidence behind.
Wow. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
But in Melissa's bedroom, they found something that seemed like it could be a crucial piece of evidence.
Okay.
Semen on the carpet, under her body, and on the comforter covering her.
All right.
So this held, immense potential.
Yeah.
But at the time, DNA analysis was still in its infancy.
Right.
This was the mid-1980s, and the technology just wasn't there.
Yeah, the crime lab wouldn't have been able to analyze it effectively. It really shows how far we've come with forensic science.
Yeah, because, they had this biological material, but they didn't have the technology to,
It's like having a key but no lock to put it in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then just a few days after the Bennett murders, there was another really horrific attack.
Oh, wow.
On January 10th, 1984, a woman named Patricia Smith was attacked in her home in Lakewood. And she was also sexually assaulted and bludgeoned around the head with a hammer.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So there's definitely a connection.
Right. And the parallels are just chilling.
I mean, the time frame and the method of attack is almost certainly the same person.
Yeah. So, investigators, of course, tried to interview Vanessa. To try to understand what happened.
Yeah.
But she was so agitated and traumatized that they had to stop.
Oh, gosh. I can't even imagine.
It's just heartbreaking.
Especially for a young child.
Right.
And, interviewing a child in that situation takes a lot of expertise.
Yeah.
You can't push too hard, or else you could do more harm than good.
Exactly. And so the initial investigation reached a dead end.
Right.
No eyewitnesses.
Yeah.
And that crucial physical evidence was just unanalyzable.
Right.
So fast forward 11 years.
Okay.
And a major breakthrough occurred.
Right.
The Colorado Bureau of Investigation finally acquired the capability to do DNA profiling. So that semen evidence from Melissa's room that was once, a dead end, suddenly had the potential to unlock the whole case.
Yeah, that's huge because DNA profiling really changed everything, for forensic science. Right. It was like a totally new tool that could be used to identify people.
Yeah, and when they analyzed that evidence, it revealed DNA that could only have come from one person.
Wow.
And get this, the probability of it coming from anyone else was 1 in 18 million.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. So they finally had their guy.
Right.
Or at least his DNA.
Yeah, and importantly, that DNA did not match any member of the Bennett family.
So that rules out, anyone in the family.
Exactly.
Which means that it has to be someone outside of the family.
Right, and this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
So enter genetic genealogist Dr. Colleen Fitzpatrick.
All right.
And she was able to use open source DNA databases.
Okay.
The kind that people use to trace their family history.
Like 23andMe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ancestry.com.
To search for familial matches.
So she was basically using like a giant family tree to find this one person.
Yeah, it's really ingenious.
It is. It's amazing how they can do that.
And unbelievably, within a week, Dr. Fitzpatrick had a last name for investigators.
Oh, wow.
Ewing.
So they went from having nothing to having a last name in just a week.
Yeah, and that name had never come up in any of their original investigations.
That's incredible.
So it's really amazing how fast she was able to generate this crucial lead.
It really shows you how powerful genetic genealogy can be.
Right.
Even with distant matches, they can use those databases to track down these people.
So then in July of 2018, after 37 years of unanswered questions, the call finally came.
What happened?
They got a CODIS hit.
Oh, wow. So for our listeners, CODIS is a national database that stores DNA profiles from crime scenes and convicted offenders.
Right.
So they basically got a match
between the DNA from the crime scene and someone in the database.
And the hit revealed that the suspect was an inmate in Nevada.
Are you serious?
So after all this time,
wow,
the answer had been in the criminal justice system the whole time.
That's unbelievable. Yeah. It's a great example of how data sharing can help, solve these cold cases.
So the suspect's name was Alex Ewing.
Okay.
And here's another really staggering detail.
Okay.
He had been incarcerated since August of 1984.
Wow.
Just 12 days after the Bennett murders.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
So he was already in prison for something else.
For other charges.
Wow. It makes you wonder, if DNA technology had been more advanced back then.
Maybe this could have been prevented.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just mind-blowing.
And so when you look at Ewing's criminal history, it's just really disturbing.
What did he do?
So weeks after the Bennett family was murdered, he was arrested in Arizona for allegedly bludgeoning a man with a rock.
Oh, gosh.
And then in separate incidents, he nearly beat 2 other people to death with an axe handle.
Oh, my goodness.
And that ultimately led to his conviction for attempted murder in Nevada.
So he clearly has a pattern of violence.
Yeah.
And especially using,
blunt force.
Blunt weapons.
Yeah, so during questioning about the Bennett murders, Ewing's reaction was really telling.
What did he say?
He seemed to have this mix of disbelief, and then he immediately asked for an attorney.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He said things like, I mean, this is just crazy, man.
Right.
I'm thinking I need to talk to an attorney or somebody.
So that's a pretty typical reaction for someone who's been accused of something serious?
Yeah, it didn't really sound like, an innocent person hearing about this for the first time.
Exactly.
So Ewing was charged with the first-degree murders of Bruce, Debra, and Melissa Bennett.
Right.
But here's the thing. Prosecutors couldn't actually try him for those earlier hammer attacks. So back in 1984 in Colorado, the statute of limitations for attempted murder was only 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So even though they had this clear pattern of violence, they couldn't prosecute him.
Because too much time had passed.
Right.
It's frustrating, but the statute of limitations exists for a reason.
Right.
To make sure that cases are prosecuted in a timely manner.
Right.
And that evidence and memories haven't faded too much.
Yeah.
But it's definitely frustrating.
However, Ewing was also charged with the murder of Patricia Smith in Lakewood.
Oh, okay. So they could still get him for that.
Right. So even with those legal limitations, they were still able to seek some justice.
Right.
So Ewing pleaded not guilty to all 4 counts of first-degree murder.
Oh, right.
And the Bennett case went to trial first.
Okay.
And the prosecution's argument was really stark.
What did they say?
They said that Ewing's motivation was absolute bloodlust for violence.
Wow, that's intense. But, I mean, when you look at the nature of the crime, it does kind of feel like there was no other motive.
Yeah, and after all those decades, the jury finally reached a verdict.
And what was it?
Guilty on all 3 counts of murder.
Wow, so they finally got some justice after all those years.
And during the sentencing, the judge called the crimes an abomination.
Oh, wow.
And he gave Ewing 3 consecutive life sentences.
Wow.
And as we record this deep dive, Ewing is still awaiting trial for the murder of Patricia Smith.
So hopefully they'll get justice for her as well.
Right.
So it's amazing to think that this case solved after so long.
It's just a case that really stays with you.
Wow.
It's just so brutal.
Yeah, and senseless.
And it really does show the power of, DNA technology.
Absolutely.
And also, you can't help but think about Vanessa.
Yeah, what happened to her?
Right? What has her life been like after experiencing something so horrific?
It had to have been really hard for her.
Yeah. How do you even begin to rebuild your life?
Yeah. It makes you think about, the impact of these crimes on the survivors. It really makes you think about how forensic science is changing our understanding of justice.
Right.
In these old cases.
Yeah, and what other mysteries are out there that could be solved?
Yeah, it's a really profound question.
It is.
How many more cases are there like this that could be solved with new technology?
It's really amazing.
It is.
Okay, well, that's our deep dive into the Bennett family murders.
That was a really interesting case.
It was.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely.
All right, everyone, until next time.